G'day guys, today we're talking about apps on your phone, iOS and Android that I guarantee will make you a better photographer if you use them correctly. Let's get into it. G'day guys, Shane Mostyn here. Welcome to 5 Minute Friday. Today we are talking about apps, all the apps that I use on a semi-regular or regular basis, and it will make you a better photographer. I guarantee it. If you're new to the channel, check out the description. Everything I'm talking about here today is in the description down below. Unless I forget it, then you'll tell me and I'll put it down there anyway. If you're new, I do 2 videos each and every week all about small sensor photography. That is mobile phones, action cameras, all that sort of stuff. And I'll bring you 2 videos each and every week. So hit the subscribe button and I'll see you every single week. If you have subscribed, you're a bloody legend. So the apps, we're going to put them into 3 categories. Ones that you use for a camera, ones that you use for editing, and one that's going to make you a pretty bloody good photographer because it's all about self-improvement. So let's have a look at them. So we're going to talk about 6 apps. And first of all, we're going to talk about the camera apps. But all the apps that I'm talking about here today, only 2 of them are specifically available on iOS. The others are available across platforms, and it's definitely worthwhile checking it out. So the first app that we're talking about is for low light photography, which is what I do here. And the first app is Nightcap App. Nightcap App, when I first started this channel, the very first video I did was all about how to take photos of the stars with the iPhone 11 Pro. And although I was so impressed that it could do it, I was a little bit disappointed that I couldn't do it manually. I've been shooting astrophotography for years, so with DSLR, so I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't have that full manual control. Still impressed what the camera could do, but not quite as much as I want. So I looked around, found Nightcap App, and it could do all the things that I wanted it to do. It could do full manual control, so shutter speed, ISO, focusing, all that stuff, and it did it in one little app. And the app's pretty cheap, it costs $2.99 Australian. And it's not just that, it does all these other modes, and it brings these other astrophotography elements that are not simple, but they're certainly not rocket science when it comes to astrophotography with DSLR, but it brings it into the iPhone, and it's quite impressive. You can do time-lapse, star trails, meteors, ISS modes. It does lots of stuff. The only downside is it doesn't do RAW, and that's it. The rest of it is pretty bloody good. Nightcap App, definitely check it out. I'll quickly mention a couple of other photography apps, as in camera apps for the iOS, but I won't go through them all. These are good apps to take photos with, but not so good for astrophotography. Some of them have low light functionality, and I've tested them all in lots of videos, and I found them to be okay, but they're definitely designed better for daytime sort of photography. I'm talking about Moment, I'm talking about ProCam, I'm talking about Halide, I'm talking about Camera Plus 2. They're all good apps, but not so much for astrophotography. All right, let's talk about a self-improvement sort of an app. Now, when I talk about self-improvement, I'm not talking about throwing motivational posters on your wall like you're some bloody 1990s sitcom television show. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about making you better as a photographer. Let me tell you a quick story. I do photography workshops, regular photography workshops with a group in my hometown here in Kahuna in North Central Victoria, Australia. Every second Tuesday we get together, a group of photographers, local photographers, and I run workshops with them. And we do all sorts of things. We do like portraits, night astro, all sorts of stuff with proper cameras. And every time we get together, I send these guys away with a heap of homework. And what we would do with those photos next time we meet is we put them onto the screen and we would all critique the photos, all of us. The constructive feedback is not only helpful for the person who took the photo, it's incredibly helpful for the person who is viewing the photo. Because not only are you seeing a photo that you didn't see, you weren't there when they took it, but you can mentally imagine just how that photo was composed. And you as a photographer, you start thinking about other ways that you could do it. So when you give and receive constructive feedback, it's a very powerful tool. I've actually entered into photography competitions where I've entered specifically because some really well-known photographers are there judging. And part of the entry conditions is they would give you the feedback. And I enter these competitions just to get the feedback. About photography competitions, my general rule these days is stay the hell away from social media competitions. Getting likes on Facebook does not make you a better photographer. It just doesn't. Same with Instagram. The amount of followers that you have, the amount of likes that you get doesn't make you a better photographer. It just doesn't. It's a pure vanity thing. That's it. What does help though is good constructive feedback. It works as long as you've got people who are in the photography space giving you that feedback. You will always get better. So what I'm talking about here is an app. The app is called C41 and it's a photo competition app. Now, let me talk about competitions outside of social media. The main drawback from almost every competition that I've ever entered into is that you lose the rights to your photo. In the fine print that nobody reads, when you sign off and enter that photo, you lose the rights to that photo. I'm always a bit dubious about photo competitions in that regard. This app is different. And what makes this app different for me is 4 key things. One is that you retain, as the photographer, retain the rights to that photo. Every image that you enter into this competition, you retain the rights to it. 2, you get good constructive feedback from other photographers for every photo. And 3, you give good constructive feedback to other photographers. And 4, you get some kick-ass prizes. These guys are giving away things like action cameras, Android phones, tablets, tripods, lenses for your mobile devices. They give away lots of cool prizes and they give them away for 2 reasons. When you enter into one of the competitions, if you win the photo competition, you obviously win a prize. Guess who else wins a prize? The people who comment the best constructive comment, feedback on a photo also wins a prize. So not only are you winning a prize for good photography, other people or you can even win a prize for good constructive feedback. That is bloody cool. So how this thing works is that there's 3 different tiers of competition. One's annual, one's members only, and one's free. The members only and the annual ones are only for members. So it costs about $25 a year, Australian, and you might think, well, bugger that, that's bloody expensive, but it works out to roughly 6 or 7 cents Australian dollars a day. And if you don't think that improving your photography is worth 6 or 7 cents a day, give it up. Get rid of your camera. You're not doing yourself any favors. But if you didn't want to pay for that and your means do not really support doing that, that's fine, that's cool, I get that. There are definitely free competitions that you can enter there. So the way that it works is all about karma. Karma, like do something good, you get something good, do something bad, you get something bad, that's karma. And the way it works is that you vote on things, vote on people's images, you vote on and give good constructive feedback on people's images. In that field in that pool, if you like, of photos, yours comes closer to the top. So more people come in to vote, they see yours sooner and you get more votes. So by you going in there and voting, your image comes a little bit higher, not rank-wise, but more people see it. More people will vote on it, the better chance you've got of winning. So it's actually a pretty novel idea. I quite like how it works. I've entered a couple of competitions into this app and I knew that they were pretty cruddy looking photos, and the feedback that I got for these photos would be pretty much on par with the sort of feedback that I would give to other people if they asked me about these photos. So I think it's definitely worth looking at. If you want to download this app, check it out in the description. I've got a link there. It's my link, so they know that you've come from this channel. And what that will mean for you later on is that if you start winning prizes in this, you're probably going to be eligible for even more prizes on top of the standard ones that are there because you're one of the bloody legends. Later on this year, we're talking about running some astrophotography competitions specifically from your phone. So it's definitely worth getting onto this competition, and it's going to make you a better photographer. I guarantee it. The next app that I want to talk about is PhotoPills. If you've watched this channel for any sort of amount of time, you know that I use PhotoPills quite a bit. It's an excellent tool for planning your landscape photography and your astrophotography. It does lots of things. I mainly use it for the augmented reality in planning where my photos, where the Milky Way is going to be in the sky, at what time of night, to compose the photo properly. Not only does it have the augmented reality for the Milky Way, which is just, it's worth paying for this app just for that, in my opinion. But it does other things like, it'll tell you how long, when you do a star trail photo, how long you need to be there before the full circle comes about. It will tell you things like where exactly the moon is going to rise on the horizon, a full moon, so that you can get a nice silhouetted photo of a tree or something like that. It's a fantastic tool. It's definitely worth it. It's worth about $15. That's what you pay for it. It's available on both devices, Android and iPhone. And get it, guys. It's absolutely worth it. The next app that I want to talk about is Spectre. Spectre is a long exposure app specifically for iOS devices. It's unique in that it does everything handheld. So you're probably aware of the long exposure photography that you can do with your iPhone using the live method. So as in you use a live photo, go into the gallery, swipe up, scroll all the way to the right, and then you convert that live photo into a long exposure photo. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I've done a video, it's up there, have a look at it. But the key with that live photo is it only goes for like 1.5 to 3 seconds, depending on how much light's around. The thing with the Spectre app, you can do it for 9 seconds or even more. Handheld, it's bloody amazing. I did a video with Ralph Mayhew up on the Gold Coast, I'll link it at the top here, using this app, and we did some long exposure under a jetty. He used a Nikon, I used the phone, and to be honest, they're both bloody good photos. I've used this app quite a bit for long exposure photography. I used to use the slow shutter app, but you'd absolutely need a tripod for that app. Whereas this Spectre app, it's dead set simple. Pull it out. I even rest it on something. More stability you give it, the better it goes, obviously. But handheld, long exposure with the iOS, it's bloody amazing. It's worth about $4 Australian in the App Store. The next two apps are editing apps. One is Snapseed, the other is Lightroom. Each of these apps have got their pros and cons. With Snapseed, you've got no money to pay. It's free, and it's a bloody awesome tool. It's a very, very powerful tool. In fact, almost everything that's in Snapseed, you can do with Lightroom and vice versa. There's a couple of things though you can't do. One is dehazing, and it's a very powerful tool on Lightroom that I use for astrophotography, and doesn't exist in Snapseed, which is a bit of a pain. On both of these, you can use presets, and I sell them both on my website, phonephotoschool.com.au. Head over there, you can get presets for Snapseed, presets for Lightroom. These ones all about astrophotography. These ones, I think I've got a couple of astro ones in there. And if you sign up for the newsletter on that website, you get a couple of free ones anyway. So both of these are editing apps, and editing photos can be a bit of a controversial sort of a subject. And when I do workshops with proper cameras and people say, I don't edit photos, that's cheating. I'll say, I hear you say that, and all I hear is you just don't know how to do it. Editing photos will make you a better photographer. Less is more when it comes to editing photos. Editing photos makes you a better photographer. Let's move on. The last one about editing that I'll mention is an app called Rni Films. It's an app that if you have a social media presence and you want to maintain the same sort of look, check out Rni Films. It gives it a little bit of a vintage look, and you can bring the same editing that you can get with both of the Lightroom and Snapseed. You can bring most of that to Rni Films, but it will give you a nice vintage sort of a look about it. Worthwhile checking out Rni Films. So they are the apps that I use on a pretty regular basis, and I guarantee you if you use all of those the way that they're meant to be, especially the C41 app, you're going to be a better photographer. All right guys, I'll catch you next week.